Hey there guys, how's it going? So we have a brand new deal and a brand new medal to go along with it in the shop, which may be a bit of a surprise to you guys that fell asleep last night without seeing any tweet going, well I guess there's no new content tomorrow morning. Surprise, there is a deal in the shop, it just didn't have any notice or tweet attached to it, we'll talk about that in a second. But we have the illustrated Dusk medal, so it's an illustrated Dusk medal but it's a copycat medal that copies backwards, so let's say for example you have this in slot 4, it will copy the special attack of the medal in slot 3. It's a reverse magic copycat medal, which is the first time we've seen that type of medal specifically. We do have three reverse copycat medals already. We have reverse, well in our version of the game at least, Japan has a couple more. We have the reverse speed Beagle Boys, the reverse power tier 4 CM Pete, I think the Lion King version of Pete, and we have of course Riku Replica being the tier 8 reverse power one. This is an identical copy to Riku Replica, only being a magic instead of power. So I personally think copycat medals are some of the best investments you can make in this game. In terms of the jewels you spend on them and the value they retain, copycat medals are potentially the best purchase out there. Do I think this one really holds that value up though? It's an interesting case and we'll talk about it right now. If we go ahead and have a little think about the amount of medals in this game, the amount of Keyblades rather, that have a reverse magic slot on it, let's take a look at these 5 Keyblades right here, because they're the only ones. It's a very, very short list. It's 3 Wishes, the Moogle of Glory, Counterpoint, Fairy Stars, and Diamond Dust. So let's take a quick peek at each of those Keyblades right now. So if you go ahead and have a look at Fairy Stars, for example, this is the setup I typically run. So I'll have something like this, where I've got a big buffer in the front, and given that this buffer right here is the best buffer in the game that the game's ever seen, and quite literally covers the entire gambit of things you would want to buff, almost, as long as you're staying within the single attribute, I don't need to do any more casts of that buffer. In the past, let's say for example you had the original illustrated Kyra EX right there, which did a tremendous amount of buffs, but didn't quite hit the buff cap for a lot of stats. You did have a case for wanting to cast it twice, especially if you wanted to get general defense down and you didn't have extra attack on the buffer. There was definitely a reason why you want to go, okay, maybe I'll cast backwards in this slot right here. If the game was still at that point, I would make a much stronger argument for wanting to go ahead and pull this medal if you were using Fairy Stars a lot. As it stands right now, you have no need. You can double cast Kyra EX Plus if you like. You'll get one more counter out of it, but aside from that, you're really not getting any more benefits. It's compared to if you were to copy a damage dealing medal forward, or just use your own damage dealing medal in that slot right there. For example, you can go ahead and use the new Illustrated Prime Roxas in that slot right there to deal tons of damage, but in terms of your damage output, double casting Kyra EX Plus is not the way to deal the most damage. I mean, if you just take a quick look at the multipliers here, if you know nothing else about this game, how damage is dealt, just have a peek at the multipliers right there. We don't use Kyrie because she does heaps of damage on her own. We use her because she does tons and tons of damage. She enables other medals to do tons of damage. So we take a small damage hit by using her in the incorrect slot, if you will, there, because she gains so much other benefits for all the other Keyblade slots. So even though, like I've seen a lot of people that are a little bit newer to the game and think, well, okay, if she's a really good medal, then I'll just cast her twice. Your train of logic isn't bad, but just have a think. If you were to copy a medal with a much higher multiplier at the same level of buffs, you're going to do way more damage. I can explain that further if you guys are a bit newer and don't quite know what that means, that's fine, but just take my word for it. Especially with Kari or Shion Plus, you only need to cast them once, okay? Anyway, having said all that, so again, Fairy Stars I don't think is a very, very good fit for Illustrated Dusk. What about the rest? Diamond Dust, for example, I think is the absolute best Keyblade this medal could possibly be used for. Obviously, given that it's a 1-cost medal on a Keyblade which only has, let's say, about 10 gauge, or in my case 12 gauges because I got a plus gauges trait, but on all the reverse proud Keyblades, gauges are very, very, very tight. So if you can fire off a really, really powerful attack, like let's say the new Illustrated Prime Roxas, for example, in, I don't know, let's say that slot right there, and then copy forward with Vanitas and copy backwards with the new Illustrated Dusk, you can do some serious damage. If Diamond Dust is your primary Keyblade, this is almost a must-buy medal in my opinion. What about the rest of the Keyblades though? In my opinion, potentially, I find it really odd saying this because I do love copycat medals, but potentially not worth getting. This Keyblade right here, we go ahead and have 2 slots there. Again, 3 Wishes is something you'd only ever use on PvP week. It's really, really not a good Keyblade, unfortunately, in any other circumstance. So I honestly can't recommend using it. It's not a bad Keyblade for this particular medal because you've got decently powerful slots in slot 5, and you could copy it in slot 3, copy backwards off a pretty powerful slot 2, and do some decent damage with. It's just the awkward distribution of power in this Keyblade. It's like slot 2 is really powerful, and then slot 3 is a bit weaker, slot 4 is a bit weaker, and then, 5 is pretty powerful again. It's a little bit bizarre, but I guess with the really powerful buffers that we have out the front nowadays, that almost doesn't matter as much, but I don't know. I don't think if people have invested much points into, upgrading their 3 wishes, or any of the 3 initial Keyblades for that matter, so I can never really justify purchasing a medal to use it on 3 wishes, for example. I would never recommend that. Anyway, the remaining Keyblades were... Diamond Dust doesn't have one. Moogle of Glory, again, is a really interesting case, because slot 1, 2, 3, and 4 make sense in progression of power, kind of. And then you have slot 5, which just dips way down, which is really, really bizarre. I was saying yesterday, though, that you could potentially use that brand new Nominate EX Plus in slot 5 right there, and really power up your pet slot. That's still an option, so I guess you could potentially run a really powerful slot 4 that copies backwards, because, like, right now, if I were to use Nominate in that slot right there, I mean, I could use Vanitas there to make a Nominate herself, do, like, a big debuff to all the, to add 5 counters to multiple enemies at the same time, but in terms of raw damage output, I'm probably better off copying backwards, something nice and powerful there. I don't know, you can play around with that yourself. And again, we'll keep going forward. Counterpoint is in the same boat. Counterpoint slot distribution is that it has slot 2 being the reverse slot, which again, I don't think is too helpful, exactly the same reasoning as Fairy Stars. And then finally, or have we got through them all already? No, we have, sorry, that's it, that's all 5 I want to talk about. So, I can't really justify purchasing this thing for myself personally, because I don't use Diamond Dust heaps, because I never pulled reverse magic medals. It's sort of a chicken and the egg thing. It's like I don't use Diamond Dust because I don't have reverse magic medals, and I don't have reverse magic because I don't pull for them. So if you were the kind of person that's already pulled for Illustrated Prime Roxas, you have a HD Vanitas, and maybe some other decent medals to go along with it, there's definitely a case for you to go ahead and pull this medal. Let's not forget, of course, you can use Illustrated Dusk on every single slot in your pet slot. It's a great medal to go like on every single Keyblade. What I'm trying to say, though, is if you already have like HD Riku Replica, for example, that does that job for you, then you probably don't need to go ahead and pull this medal. If you had missed out on Illustrated HD Riku Replica, rather, you could definitely go ahead and pull for this. The problem is, of course, there are so many good things to pull right now, and it's been pretty much non-stop banner spam for the last couple of months, so if you have the jewels for it, and you are in desperate need of a copycat medal, definitely a good case to make by pulling this medal. If not, maybe wait on it a little while. You don't have very long to wait though, unfortunately, because it's only a 4-day banner, but hopefully we won't get some news about the new high score challenge until the current one's over, and that will pretty much leave you out of time to go ahead and pull for this thing if you do decide to pull for it, so it's going to be your choice here. The cool thing about this banner, of course, is it's just like the Phantom banner. You do get a chance to get a trait medal every single pull along with it. I want to give a huge shout out to Donut Dan, a guy from my Discord who was very, very helpful. He messaged me the second this thing came out and was like, check it out, it isn't officially in the notices, there wasn't a tweet. He went ahead and pulled for it and actually got it on his 3rd pull, so congratulations man, good job. And obviously got the 3 trait medals along with it. If you are going to go ahead and pull for it, do hang on to at least 1 copy of the trait medal, because it could be used as a high score percentage medal, in addition to the medal itself. Yeah, interesting stuff. I do wonder if they're going to have to, I don't know, if this is meant to be in the high score challenge, and my crazy theory is right, that it was initially meant to, that they wanted to, upon the revised timeline, release it a little bit later. Maybe they'll extend this banner out a little bit so that people can pull for it in the high score, like when the high score challenge is live. If there is going to be one this month, I don't know, man. Anyway, and lastly, just one more thing. With medals these days, 7 stars are more important than ever. Having a medal at 7 stars is very, very, very important in terms of damage. I'm at the point now with my Coliseum content, for example, where I'm trying to grind it out. I'm not dealing any damage with Riku here because he's a 6 star. Even though his guilt multiplier is a lot higher than the medal that I'm actually copying, I'm not dealing any damage because they've, I think, changed the formula a little bit to value more of your strength stat, I think. I could be wrong about that, but the point is I'm dealing 0 damage with, this medal right here, even though it's in a higher slot multiplier with a higher guild percentage. That isn't making up for the fact that I have like way less strength to play with, so I would love to get this thing and I would love to have it at 7 stars. But having those resources to do that is very, very, very difficult to do. Of course, you need tier 8 fairies, and the competition for tier 8 fairies is immense. If you were, in my opinion, potentially you could go ahead and get a cheaper copycat medal, like a tier 5 or a tier 6, and go ahead and use that for a little while. That might sort of scratch your itch for a powerful copycat medal that's going to really improve your game. Anyway guys, let me know what you think. Are you going to go ahead and pull for this thing? If you do decide to pull for it, share your pulls in the Discord channel. As always, I'm really excited to see them. I'm still deciding. I really am still deciding, because it's not like you can just do a pull for it and get one copy of the medal. Of course, it's a deal in the shop where you pull for it and you only get the trait medal. It's a 5 pull mercy, of course, which is not bad. Again, 15,000 jewels for a reverse magic copycat medal with 5 traits attached to it. Again, even if you don't want to use this in its actual proper Keyblade slot, you can always put it in every single pet slot imaginable. Or even as a friend medal, honestly. If you get a good copy of this friend medal with, I don't know, like a negative raid traits on it, for example, you could really benefit your entire party. So, I don't know guys, I'm really kind of torn on this. Let me know what you guys think, and maybe we'll make a decision together. There's so many good things I want to pull off right now. I still want to pull off this banner right here. I just keep being patient, because you never know what comes out. You never know what's coming out next. I mean, that Prime banner, like I said the other day, that was completely bait, but, you know, I sort of fell for it because I have enough jewels, and it had pretty good odds of improving my game, but they really are not stopping with these banners, so I don't expect that to stop anytime soon. Anyway, guys, I'm starting to ramble, so I'll leave you with it. All the best, guys. Catch you later. Bye.